Yeah, I have the world's shittiest internet here in Vegas. So bad, in fact, that I have bought one of those mobile hotspots.
Oh, yeah?
Got to, and that's just a redundancy in case, because I can't have people being interviewed then have this internet go down. But it's so bad to download, say, a 30-minute podcast. It takes about an hour. So I usually end up going to the local coffee store, binge download all the podcasts I want to listen for the day or the week. And then here I could do text, email, but as long as I keep the bandwidth low enough, I usually can do a live stream as long as I'm not sending out actual video, just audio. And it's worked out so far.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, it's like when you do these streams, I think it's so much more personal when they can see your face. So,
Oh, no doubt about it. Look, I don't even get me started. I know everyone's like, dude, why can't you be like Coach Red Pill? Why can't you get your video quality up? It's like, well, okay, Coach Red Pill spends literally thousands of dollars on his setup, and he spends scores of hours editing the multiple angle shots and all that. I just do not have the time. And now, especially here, I simply don't have the bandwidth. I can pull off a couple high quality videos back at home in the Northern Command, and I can do the video live streaming in Skype. But here it's just forget it. The audio quality, I'd start sounding like a robot if I started throwing up the video feed. So I just issue it. And I know people want to see the face.
yeah, you're depriving your fans of your facialness there.
I'm depriving my huge gay audience of my face. Yes, the gay audience that is 3 times as large by estimates of the number of romantic inquiries I've received over the years from both males and females. I do have a female listening audience. I do have a romantically or sexually interested female audience, but they are 1/3 the gay.
Really?
Audience. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've probably gotten more dick pics than I have chicks just sending me a picture of their titties or them in bikini or something like that. It's a close race, but I think the gay guys are winning out because they're more aggressive. They're like, hey, what are you bad for the other? No, I don't. I don't know where you got that idea. No, I haven't changed my mind since the last episode. I'm still not the gays. But yeah, there's we got libertarian viewpoints here, and I'm always pro gay marriage. So I mean, certainly gays are welcome, no doubt about that. They're just not welcome in that regard, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I read you loud and clear.
Yep. So I don't know where the hell Rollo is. He was supposed to be here. Let me check the Twitter. Make sure I send him the link. That's the only way him and I.
It says he just joined.
Oh, hey, there he is. How you doing, Rollo?
Hey, good. How's
the audio on your end? You can hear us all right?
Yeah, fine. Are we doing just audio or are we live?
No. I'm at very low bandwidth, crappy internet here in Vegas. And
is that where you are?
Yeah, I've been down here. This is my 5th year down here.
Oh, so you're living there now?
Just for winter, yeah.
Winter. Yeah, shit. I don't blame you.
What? Holy crap, you guys. We got a buddy, Chad and I in common, who lives up in Truckee, California.
Yeah.
And he is just being, are you getting it? Are you up in the mountains too? Or are you in the basin?
I am right at the base of Tahoe. If you, I don't know how familiar you are with the area, but like there's a way, it's called the back way into, well, actually the side way in, I guess, to Lake Tahoe. It's called Kingsbury Grade. And I'm technically in Gardnerville, but I'm at the base of Kingsbury Grade on the eastern side of the of the Sierras. So I can be in Tahoe in like 20 minutes. But it like, if they get like 14 feet, we get like 12 feet. So.
All right, so you're getting hit too.
Oh man, yeah. With the last, I have not left my studio or left my my house here for like. There was a time I didn't get out of here for like 12 days.
No kidding.
Yeah, all I did for about 10 of those days was just dig snow and just make sure that like my propane tanks and everything. Cause I live I have about a little more than half an acre where I live here. And I've got my snowmobiles, I've got trailers, it looks like a power sports used power sports showroom or something out there in the front. But it's digging. It's a lot of digging. And I have a snowblower. People say, well, how come you don't have a snowblower? And I'm like, well, I do, but it's kind of like an older one, and it's what my landlords had that I use. But I'm like, I need to get something else. I really got to get something bigger. It was deep. Right now it's not so bad. We've had a lot of rain, and so it's washing a lot of it away, but it's going down into the valley, and so it's starting to. We're like worried about flooding right now. We're supposed to get another rainstorm tonight. Actually, I'm surprised you don't hear it right now. It has been like 85, 100-mile-an-hour winds going through here today and yesterday.
Oh, it's horrible. That's what I was going to ask is like, if you got to worry about flooding, are you near a valley or anything, or a river?
Yeah. I'm in the Carson Valley. And it's prime ranch land. And, yeah,
it's just what they don't have enough irrigation to handle it all. There's nowhere.
Well, they do, but it just kind of depends on how bad the winter is. I think they flood the lands. They actually flood the ranches right in springtime just to get the growth going. And there's no farms out here. It's all just cattle. It's all cattle land out here. So
I'm wondering if I remember riding out to Reno one time, and I took a different route. I went towards the mountains as opposed to the most direct route. And I forget if that's 95. I think the most direct route, you come in east of Sparks and then you cut over on the highway. I came up actually through Reno, and I was surprised because when you do that ride, immediately northwest of Vegas, you start getting exits for Death Valley. I mean, you're in some of the most desert that ever deserted in the United States. And there's Tonopah. I got a picture of the California mountains way in the distance. They're snow topped. And here you could just see a mirage coming off the sand right off Highway 95. And then you go another, I don't know, whatever that is, 250 miles north. And then you go in. All of a sudden there's like greenery and canals and ranches. And you're like, where did all the life come from? Yeah, it's a real interesting area.
Probably, I don't know if you know about this, but like the California land, the California Valley, they like fight over water like crazy. And then on this side, Vegas has to fight for their water as well too. Because like when we were having like those droughts and like the big lakes were damn near empty. They were fighting like cats and dogs over who, like, what ranch lands and what farmlands were going to get the water before like Vegas. And of course, Vegas has all the real money, so all the water actually flows into Vegas just so that they can have like the fountain shows at the Bellagio.
What? Well, wait a minute. I thought all the water came from Lake Mead and the Colorado River. You're saying there's water all the way from the north there?
For that side, yes. But like if you go down through Bishop, or if you go down through like the California Valley and stuff like that, they were fighting for it for a while.
I would have thought the Sierra Nevada Mountain, hey, what falls on our side is ours, and what falls on your side is yours. And everyone has their own respect.
I wish it worked that way, man. I mean, there's like people like murdering each other because of water rights out here. And then there's also the Indian reservations that the water runs through as well.
Yeah. God almighty. So, well, anyway, Rollo, if you don't mind, I know most of my listening audience listens to you, but thanks for coming on the show. First time having you on the show. I think it's like the only third time we've done celebrity guest asshole consulting. But why don't you tell everybody about you? And just so both of you guys know, if you guys got to get going, if you guys know you guys are busy, Chad, it's busy season for you. Rollo, I know you got a billion plates up in the air, of which I want to talk to you about because I'm very curious about something. But go ahead, introduce yourself to my listening audience so people know who you are.
All right. Well, anybody who doesn't know me, you were on the Red Man Group. You've been on the Red Man Group with us once. Yeah, that's right. So I am Rollo Tomassi. I'm the author of the Rational Male series of books. The first one, The Rational Male, is widely viewed as the Bible of the Red Pill. I'm sure people know me mostly because of that. I got two other books that were part of that series, and I've got a fourth one that's coming out. I hope to have it published by October, the beginning of October of this year. That's going to be about the red pill and religion. The second book was it was a preventive medicine. In that, I sort of spelled out a timeline for what guys could expect from women at different phases of women's maturity, like throughout their lives, from 15 all the way up to 50. And then positive masculinity I did for like social reasons, like kind of like how how the red pill, and by red pill I mean like intersexual dynamics. I don't mean like any political red pill stuff. That's whenever I say red pill, I mean it from in terms of, you know, men and women. And positive masculinity was really about positive masculinity and a return to positive conventional masculinity, and how to be like a red pill parent, and how to raise your kids very in keeping with the upcoming 21 convention, which is coming up in May, which I'll be speaking at in Orlando, Florida, which is the patriarchs edition of that. It's going to be for men who are married, men who are fathers, men who want to become fathers, and men who are divorced and sort of getting themselves back into the sexual marketplace at middle age, and you know, dealing with the fallout of divorce and things like that. That's another aspect of the patriarchs edition. The main convention that I do is in October, and I speak at that. That's really the only, for a while, that was the only one I was doing, but I will be speaking in Poland in the summertime for a European 21 convention. And then the main convention is in October this year. And that's like what we call a red pill summit. It's guys who are from all aspects of the red pill when it comes to intersexual dynamics. And it's something that I've been doing now, or well, this will be the third year that I've done it. And then if you don't know me already from all of that, I'm also one of the hosts on the Red Man group, which we have every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we talk about a variety of different things. We have a panelist or panelists, usually about 4 to 5 guys who are there, and we talk about red pill issues, and again, from intersexual dynamics perspective. And I also have my own brand new channel on YouTube, which is Red Pill 101, and that's with myself and Pat Campbell, who is a terrestrial radio show host in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm on his show actually on Friday mornings, but on Sunday afternoons at 4:30 Eastern, that's when I do Red Pill 101, which is kind of like a, I don't want to call it remedial, but it's just like if for guys who have like questions about my book, and who have questions about just the red pill community as a community, but also as red pill principles. I started doing this show because I had so many guys asking me like these old school questions, and who had just picked up my book. And I think I kind of got to the point where I figured everybody knew what I was talking about when I like would talk about basics, right? Like about hypergamy, or I would talk about like, so, you know, basics of game, or basics of, just intersexual dynamic, like not necessarily all of that, but like just like, you know, aspects that you could find in my book. And I like I said, I got to the point where I didn't realize that everybody, you know, there's new people, man, there's an influx of new readers all the time, and they all have questions. And so that show kind of sprang out from all of that. And it's great because it's nice to come back and like revisit those topics and clarify them a little bit, because I wrote the Rational Male was published in 2013, in October of 2013. And all of the material that was in that was the amalgamation, I guess, of almost 12 years of either blog posts, or they were discussions that I had on my old forum, which is the SoSwab forum, that I was a part of from 2000 all the way up until I stopped being a mod in, I think, 2014. But just all the conversations that we had, and so that's what built into that. But it's nice to go back to those and look at them, because like sometimes I go, what was I thinking? And it's weird to read my books now in 2019, you know, a book that I wrote like say really in 2012, and then sort of review the principles or the things like, do I still really think that?
Well, and think about this just to put things in perspective. 20 years ago, I think you just had a kid, or your daughter was on the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and
yeah.
not only things have changed, but though that generation of boys, I always make the joke, as long as there's divorce and single motherhood and feminism, I'm never running out of clients. But yeah, there's a next generation of kids coming along, and the stuff that we could go back, dating about 20 years. Yeah, it's all new to them, especially as they're hitting puberty or going on the internet and starting to search questions, which I think a lot of our websites have been discovered.
It's interesting. My daughter is 20 years old right now, and you know, and she dates and everything, and it's interesting to like see, like there's nothing new, it's like interesting to see that how guys go about like trying to get with girls
well, then good. You don't have to come out with a second edition. It's good. It's one and done. You don't have to revise nothing.
It's funny because like guys always tell me like whenever I'm at the conferences or like whenever I'm just doing any kind of speaking, guys will come up to me and they want me to sign their books, and I look through their books and it's like nothing but like scribbles and like liner notes and like 3 different colors of highlighters and the pages are all dog-eared, and and that's good to see, I think, because it's not the kind of book that you just read once and you put it on your shelf. You come back to it. It's like a living text. Like maybe you're going through a divorce, or maybe you're going through something in your life, and you go, oh, what did Rollo have to say about that? So they'll go back and they'll read that particular part of it, and then later on they'll read something else, and it's something that you keep coming back to. Like guys will always tell me like, I've read your book like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I hope it in a good way.
Yeah, I think I wrote my books. I never read them. I'm like, I don't ever want to see this damn thing ever again. I don't want to work ever again.
Man, I have Bachelor Pad Economics right up behind me now.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So, well, now here's a question, because you're a little bit older than me, and I'm kind of wrestling with the future of the red pill and what I like to call the frontier. Is that all you do? Because you just listed quite a canon of literary and podcasting and terrestrial radio work. Is that all you do?
No, not at all. In fact, this isn't even my day job. I have been in the liquor industry for going on 20 years now. Before that, I worked for some casinos. In fact, the only vice I haven't worked for is pornography. So I've worked for casinos here. I've worked for casinos at the lake. I was the creative director for a import export for many various brands of vodka, rum, whiskey, cachaça. You want me to keep going?
You're making my point splendidly, because I'm going somewhere with this. Not just to introduce you, but you're making my point splendidly.
Yeah. Well, I right now, well, really for the last about 10 years, I've been just doing brand management, and I've been the principal creative for 2 brands of alcohol, which I don't really want to name right now, simply because I don't know how they would feel about Rollo Tomassi talking about their brands. So, but everybody already knows one of those because I tweet it out occasionally. But I have ownership stake in 2 brands, and so those are kind of my babies right now. And I do promotional stuff, and if we do new product lines or anything, I've gone from like representing about 24 different brands to really just boiling it down to 2. And then I've always had a knack for turning my primary revenue stream into my secondary revenue stream while I move on to a new primary stream. And so my work in liquor right now is kind of, I don't want to say it's taking a back seat, but it's about even with what I'm doing in the manosphere right now. I right around I just turned 50 last year, and right about that time, I'm like, what do I really want to do? What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do? I want to be, do I want to be Rollo Tomassi, the liquor mogul, or do I want to be Rollo Tomassi, who's like helping guys out? Or like when I'm in the grave, I don't know how many more good years I have, right? I hope I have a few, but I am beginning to, I finally recognize that my books and what I'm doing in the manosphere is having a really lasting social impact. And so I wanted to pursue that, and I wanted to put a little bit more time into that. So I am still doing my promos, but I'm doing them probably about a third less than I was before. Okay. And then I'm applying myself. Like I've got my own office now that's not here. It's down in Midtown, but it's just so that I can do things, whether that's this or that's other. I'm kind of like, I'm independently employed. I don't want to say I'm not independently wealthy, but I'm independently employed. So I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't have to worry about getting doxxed, or I don't have to worry about people going, "Oh, did you know Rollo Tomassi works for your company?"
Damn right he does
that stuff. Yeah. Well, like one of the brands that I work for probably wouldn't care, but I don't want to make that assumption. But the other one, I I don't know. The thing is like in liquor, there's really gender lines that are drawn in the liquor industry. There's liquor that's meant for men, and there's liquor that's meant for women, right? Vodka is meant for women. Like today, it's a huge the female market for vodka is insane. Wine, as you might guess, is really big with women.
No.
Yeah, really.
No. You mean they got to take their medication pills with something?
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
wine will do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, how else are they gonna take their antidepressants, right? 4 glasses of wine, boxed wine, even. But like, you know, flavored vodkas was really huge in the mid 2000s to the early 2000s. I got in on that at the ground level, and I made a lot of money in that. And I don't like. I applaud. I mean, people will probably think I'm a fiend about this. Gosh, you're asking me I'm getting all these questions I never have to answer on anything else.
Well, we got plenty more.
Don't worry. I was going to say, when I'm working in the alcohol industry, it puts me out into the field, and that's what I really liked about it. Is if I have to go do like a liquor promo, or if I have to go do a martini fest, or if I have to go somewhere, I'm like picking out like the beautiful people. I'm picking out hot women to come and be like booth candy, you know, to be there. They're basically poor girls, you know. They're there to make whatever the shots are, whatever that we're promoting at that time, and good looking guys too. I can't say it's just always girls, but so I'm doing that. I'm working with women on a constant basis, and then I'm dealing with people in social situations. So I might be anywhere from like a rock bar to a really upscale art event or something like that. It just depends on where we end up being. Like sometimes I'll go to like have you ever been to Hot August Nights in Reno before, which is like the classic muscle cars thing?
Reno, I've been through en route to some other place, and I crashed there because it's a great place to crash before you go over the mountain pass or something like that.
Hot August Nights is like it's 1 week in the middle of, it's really the beginning of August, and it's like a citywide gig for people who are into classic cars and muscle cars and mostly American cars. And so like, say for something like that, I might go and promote my whiskey brand or something at something like that. And then the next day I might be doing something at a club, or I might be doing something at like Lex or some of these other just basically promotions and stuff like that. So what that has, and the reason I'm saying that is it's always put me in the field. I've always been out and been sort of a student of human behavior, and in particular watching guys try to get with girls and watching girls try to get with guys. And and then as soon as the liquor hits them, then it's truth serum, right? That's so then things are so I'm kind of out there watching all of this. I'm like sort of like the Diane Fossey of the red pill. It's like gorillas in the mist. I'm just watching this human, this behavior. Like what will happen when the male meets the female? And so I'm picking this kind of stuff apart. So people want to know where my background comes from. That's part of it is just being a student of human behavior. And then also I have 2 degrees. I have a degree in Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I have a Bachelor of Science in behavioral psychology as well. So that's really where a lot of this came from. Like when I first started out, I was doing peer counseling for guys who are like a lot older than me. Like I was in my 30s and I was doing peer counseling for guys who are in their like 60s. But at the same time, I was in the seduction communities and learning like why, like say cocky funny worked, or
like So Suave, Net Days, and all that. Yeah, right.
The Mystery Method days. And this is like early 2000s. And I was always curious as to like why these things worked. Like why would like a neg hit work on a girl, right? And then so I wanted to know what the psychology was behind that, because it wasn't enough for me to just like turn the TV on and watch the TV. I needed to like break the TV down and learn how it worked, and like pull all the parts apart and then put it back together again, because that's kind of like just how I think, just creatively and constructively.
And we're not even done. There's 2 major things left on your resume, even with all that experience, Canada work, diversified interest, diversified. So there's two other things on your resume you haven't mentioned, which would make you preeminently qualified, especially being an elder statesman of the red pill community.
Godfather, right? Is that what they're saying?
Not Godfather. No, father and husband.
husband. Yes, I've been
Right.
married. I've been married for I'll be 23 years in July, and like I said, my daughter is 20 years old, and I've raised a young woman from the time she was this big till she was this big.
So from like Chad's size to normal human beings.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's another thing that I like to think that I can talk on a variety of topics when it comes to red pill things. If you want to talk about game, I can talk about that. If you want to talk about raising kids, in a red pill perspective, I wrote a book on that. If you want to, like, people always say, well, Rollo, you just did everything right. You've always been an alpha or whatever. I'm like, no. I especially in high school, I was very much a beta. When I've dealt with a borderline personality disordered woman for a while, in my mid-20s. I was a semi-professional musician in the late 80s and the early 90s. And so I've worn a lot of hats. I've done a lot of things. I have a really broad range of experience to sort of draw on. So if you want to talk about like borderline personality disorder, I can tell you what that's like. I can tell you what being, an alpha semi-professional musician rock star is like, and I can tell you what it's like to be like almost a what Vox Day would call like an omega, like just like at the pit of misery. Actually during my borderline personality disorder girl days, and then I met my wife, and now things are a whole lot different.
You can tell
I
what
have
it's
a
like to be
broad
Ward
range.
Cleaver.
Yes, yeah, Ward Cleaver, Ward Cleaver who sells booze. Yeah.
Well, here's why I want not just to introduce people, the 5% of my audience that may not have ever heard of you, but I can't think of anybody in a better position because of your wide background experience, not to mention, no offense, but your age, because you're a little bit older than a lot of us here. But I was listening to the Red Man Group, and you were talking about this precise thing we were talking about before, how you had to, are you Rollo Tomassi, the author, or the booze connoisseur / supplier, and all this other stuff? And there's more than that, than what you've done in your life. You have this wide array of interests. But as you've gotten older, now you have all these other opportunities, some of which offered to you by dabbling in different markets. Some of it also, though, I'd say predominantly because of entrepreneurship and testing and trying and experimenting with new things. Are you getting fatigued? I mean, you got time management hurdles or challenges. Are there other aspects of your production that are suffering? I mean, how are you balancing this all up? Because I have a feeling you don't even have this answer. And if you're at a stage where Rollo Tomassi doesn't have the answer, I and many other people would like to know, okay, well, what's your current status? What are your thoughts about work-life balance, time management, and stuff like that?
Well, I've kind of shifted in the last year. I guess after turning 50, like I said, I kind of had to stop and do a little bit of introspection, and I had to decide whether or not I wanted to just continue on as I was and just like be happy to write an occasional book, or do I want to leave something behind? I think right now I'm at the point where I want to at least think that I have left a dent in the universe. I think it was Steve Jobs who said something like, do you want to leave a dent in the universe? And I think that the rational male is certainly a dent in the universe right now. And it's nice to know that my grandchildren will probably be reading the rational male. Maybe even my great grandchildren will be. I don't know, but I don't have any experience like that. I don't have any relatives or a grandfather or anything like that who's done anything of any like sort of social significance,
legacy value.
Yeah,
type,
legacy type thing. My father, the thing that got me is my dad died of Alzheimer's dementia at the age of 72, I think it was. And that was back in like 2010, 2011. And I have not been tested to see if I have the gene or whatever. I'm not even sure if it is a gene. Maybe it's not a genetic marker kind of thing. I have a few things going for me in that I don't know who my biological grandfather is on my mother's side. So that's kind of like an X factor, I guess. But I don't know. But I'm going forward with that that thought in mind that maybe I've got a good 20 years left, and what do I want to do with those 20 years? And I made a good chunk of change before I even had a book. So, but I was working for other people. I had to sort of do things the way that I didn't necessarily want to. And then guys around me started retiring because the guys that I was working for, particularly in the liquor industry, are aging out. The liquor industry is very, I don't want to say it's inbred from a brand perspective, but like when it comes to like distribution, and it's old boys club, and some of those old boys club guys are starting to age out. And I had a lot of really good mentors, I think, as a result of that. And a lot of these guys, some of them I had a lot of respect for, and some of them I was just like, they just had a lot of crazy ideas, and maybe one of those ideas stuck. And then, so just because they had one goofy idea that was a good idea, that's what they've been riding on for a long time. And I kind of don't want that. I want to do something for guys. That's one of the reasons I wrote like preventive medicine, is because the guys kept saying, I wish I would have had all this information before, before I got married, or before I did this, or before I got involved with this woman, or I wish I would have known all that. So that's why I wrote that. Well, I also think about that in terms of like leaving a legacy behind and hopefully helping guys out in the future. Like I said, the book is kind of like a living text. Like people keep coming back to it, so that sort of gives me hope. But I want to be doing a little bit more with being Rollo Tomassi, and as being an author, and going and speaking, and I don't know, there's a lot of new things that are coming out. Like I can remember when there was no such thing as a podcast, or to do a podcast, or to do anything that was like live video online. There was no, well, YouTube was around, but it wasn't as like fleshed out as it is now, and you had to really be invested in doing something like that. Now it's easy. Now anybody with a cell phone can do a podcast if they want to. So is that something I want to get into? I don't know. Maybe. I'm at a point right now where I have a luxury of choosing what it is that I want to do. Because like, even if I stopped working, doing my brands right now, I'd still make money royalties wise on those. And then like the books make good money too, right? My books are actually starting to compete with my liquor royalties. So so what do I want to do? I could just simply say, okay, screw it, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm just going to go ride around the country on my motorcycle.
I can't advise against it.
I have a lot of hobbies.
There's anything wrong with that.
I have a lot of hobbies, and I think that if I have any distractions, it's mostly my hobbies. Like I like my snowmobile. I like my power sports stuff. I'm an artist, obviously. I have that's really a lot where the source of my income has come for most of my life, has been my art, either by design or by illustration or things like that. A lot of people don't know that about me. They think, oh, Rollo Tomassi just writes this book, right? Well, no, I do a lot of very creative things. I could just simply stop and do that, but I don't want to do that. I want to build more, right? And I'm finally at a position in my life where I have the luxury to build something or to do something more. So it's like I almost feel like I'm obligated to keep going, to get my ass up and go. Like I've spent probably the last 30 years getting up at like 4 or 5 in the morning so I could go to the gym so that I could be at work, because that was, people said, well, that's dedication. No, it's not dedication. That's the only time I could go. And so I was keeping myself in shape, and I'm still doing that. But like now I can get up whenever I want to get up, and I can go to the gym because the gym's 24 hours. I can go whenever I feel like it. But I think that I thrived on that regularity, like getting up and doing the things that I had to do so that I could get to the things that I want to do. And now I'm at a position where I can do all the things that I want to do, and I don't necessarily have to do anything, but I need to. I've never had to be more responsible. I've never had to be more responsible in my life than now.
This is the key to the problem I wanted to highlight, especially to the younger men and women out there that are listening. because you're like the Voyager 1. You know, you're the furthest we got out in interstellar space. What are we getting reports back past the Oort cloud, etc.? And what I'm seeing in my clients, maybe you've seen it in yours, is a generation of young men. Because again, this information has been out there now for 20 years. You could say the red pill of the manosphere is coming up on its 20th or 25th birthday, depending on how far back you want to go. But if you think about what the cost, not the cost, but what the consequences, the good consequences of any young man or woman who takes red pill truths, and it could be about education, career, dating, love, meaning of life, etc. You're going to do two huge things, especially if you're a young man. One, you are not going to waste your time in worthless careers, educations, go nowhere type of professions. You might get a good certification or degree. They'll put you on a path to have a career, but inevitably you're going to, at minimum, be saving your money, be very frugal and fiscally wise, getting into a position of fuck you relatively soon or early, or at least a position where you don't have to take the next job. You can be choosy. And then by consequence, you're not paying off student loans. It puts you in a very good financial position early. And then also you're not wasting your time chasing women, because when you were in your beta days, I was in my beta days. Everybody's guys have been in their beta days, but especially pre-internet, during the analog days, you would think you had a trial and error everything, because you always thought there was something wrong with you. You always thought, I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right. There was no way to compare. There was no way to compile data. Now we have it. And now a young person can pick up one of your books, Rush's books, my books, read Chateau Hartiste, any one of the many other writers that we don't have time to name right now, and they can save themselves literally decades of time. And what, for a fraction of the time that we invested primarily through trial and error, they can invest in more for sure things, get higher return on investments on their time and capital. And what I'm predicting is there's going to be a lot more future Rollo Tomassis down the road at younger age, because I'm seeing them now. I'm seeing proto Rollo Tomassis and other successful gentlemen. I'm 31. I have $250,000 saved up in cash, not the 401k. That's not even the 401k. That's just the cash. And I have this paid off, and I have my education master's in electrical engineering. And they run into this metaphorical male wall, but instead of a female wall, which is like a Hiroshima bomb multiple times over, the male wall is almost this wall to success. It's a good wall. It doesn't destroy. It's like, what do I do with all my freaking time and money? And you're there. I'm running into some other instances. We know other people who are starting to run into this, where you have so many good things to choose from on the menu of life that I even, tell me if I'm wrong, but I recall it was either we were having a conversation, or maybe I heard you on a podcast or some maybe a video you had done, where you felt like you could never do enough. Like you wanted to do this, you want to write this book. There's always another book. And what I fear, if there's a bad downside to this, is not learning how to let go of the throttle, or at least de-throttle, and say, what does Rollo Tomassi want? I mean, do you ever take off a vacation? I know you'll probably never retire fully, but do you ever think about partially retiring? Or is it that this is just too good, too much? We got to get to, because the work will never be done, because there's just too much stuff that has to be written and pointed out to help out these kids. But I mean, is that kind of the crux that you're at now, or any insight on that?
I think that, like, I'm running into a few things that I never thought I would have to. Like, I'm getting to the point right now where I don't have to show up at a job every day. I don't have to do it, and that's nice. I've been doing that for like almost the last 4 years. I think you and I talked about this one time, where it's like you have trouble because you're on your own and you're more or less independent. You can come and go and do whatever it is that you want to as you please. You're not on anybody's schedule, and so you run into problems like there's not enough guys like you. right? There's not like I'm like you, but who
There's
else
that,
is
yeah,
like
there's
us,
that,
right?
yeah, there's that statistical issue as well. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's another common
Like
question I get from
finding,
my
yeah, because
clients.
you got to wait till all your friends get to the weekends before you can do anything, right? Or you have ideas to build something or a project or something, and you know the right people and you want to put them on board with this particular project that you want to do, but they can only commit so much time to it because they're busy with their day-to-day 9 to 5 job, right?
Mhm.
So, and they've got kids, and it's like there's very few guys who are cut away from what they have to do versus what they want to do. And like right now I'm at where I can do things that I want to do, but like I said before, I have to be more responsible and I have to be more disciplined right now than any other time in my life. And I've always been fairly disciplined, especially for an artist. I've always been a pretty disciplined guy. I mean, that didn't necessarily mean I'm the most organized guy in the world, but I've always been, I always knew what I needed to do. And I never wanted to be that kind of flaky artist archetype. I wanted to be reliable and all that stuff. But like now, like I could retire. Like I was saying before, I could just say, you know what, I'm just going to collect my revenue and collect my resources and I'm going to be done with it. But I want to do more. And you're right. I'm never off duty. Like right before I came on this show, I did an hour and a half with another guy for like bulldog training or something like that. It was his podcast, this guy named John. I can't remember his last name, but I just did that. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go do Aaron's thing right now too. So half an hour later, I'm doing this with you. I'm working on a post. I'm working on a new post for the Rational Mail right now. I'm working on the 4th book right now at the same time. I've got a guy who wants me to play in his band. And so I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll go and play some music today too. So I have to cut out my time to do things for that.
When does Rollo have Rollo time? I mean, no, seriously, that's a huge question people are going to face. That's why I'm predicting, because especially a lot of these kids, 30-year-old, 20-year-olds, have grown up and entered their adult years in recession. And so when you're given an opportunity, especially with opportunities that the internet provides, to work remotely for $35 an hour, you're like, dude, who knows when the next recession's coming? Let's milk this puppy until it's over.
Yeah.
And you remember, I bet you even remember the Volcker recession. You were probably you were an older kid than me then, but we remember very harsh economic times. You're like, I don't know how long the good times are going to roll. But in the end, though, or not in the end, ultimately, you get to a point where you don't have, any downtime. The only downtime I really get is when I'm riding a motorcycle. And even then you're technically doing something because I can't listen to headphones and you're just there with your thoughts.
I'm at the position right now where, like I was saying, I don't have a lot of downtime, but I'll tell you a really quick story here is, when I first started working for the import-export company that I got involved with, that really started me in liquor. There was a guy who was this old Dutch guy. He used to be he was one of the principal creators of Kettle One vodka. I can at least mention that one. So you do know one of these. And I never understood how this guy could keep going and keep going and keep going. Right. When the first time I ever flew to Europe was with him. And we flew from Reno to Salt Lake to LaGuardia across the Atlantic Ocean. We get to Amsterdam. We're there. And then immediately once we got off the plane, it's the next day. Okay. I haven't slept in 24 hours. This guy's in his late 60s. Now he's probably in his late 70s, but back then he was in his late 60s and he was ready to go. He was like, let's go. We're going to go until 10 o'clock that same night in Amsterdam. And I couldn't believe this guy kept going. And I'm like, and he had so much, these are guys who are very rich people. Like I have worked for millionaires probably most of my life. Like the guys who are the general managers for the Tri properties down in Reno. Some of the guys that you would probably recognize the names if I were to say them from Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, the Mandalay Bay properties and stuff like that. These guys have a lot of money, right? And it's like for people who are in this 9 to 5 mentality, they think if I had all that money, I would just retire and be done with all this bullshit. I wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore. And I don't want to have to, I don't, why would you assume responsibility? why would you take on more responsibility when you don't have to, when you've got all this money, you don't? And that's, I think, is almost I don't want to say it's a poverty mentality, but it's sort of a worker's mentality. Like if you win the lottery, you could just do nothing and you got fuck you money. You can do whatever you want to do. Right. But I don't think what they understand is like you still, even after you get to that point, and I'm by no means a millionaire. Okay. I'm at a point where I'm comfortable and I can do what I want to. That's when you really find out who you are. Like these guys, like these kids who make like millions of dollars, like maybe they're rappers or maybe they're like rock stars or maybe they're athletes or something, and they get a whole lot of money all at once, right? And then what do? They develop a drug addiction or something because they don't know what to do with themselves, right? They're bored. Like they'll just like, it would be very easy for Rollo Tomassi to just, sit here and drink and shoot up or whatever. It'll be very easy to do that because I don't have to worry about it. Though I know where the money's coming
You're
from.
also stuck
right?
under 14 feet of snow.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. It'd be very easy to do something like that. But I think that you don't understand the mentality is that when you get into those situations, like what you want to do is what you're doing, right? Like I want to be doing this right now. I enjoy being Rollo Tomassi. I enjoy writing. I enjoy helping guys. I enjoy going out and speaking. When does Rollo get some downtime? Well, as soon as I'm done here, I will probably go back to my workbench here and paint or do something. And then maybe I'll watch. I'm at a point right now, and I've always kind of been like this, but I think it's intensified more since I've become more independent, and I don't know what else to call it besides independent. Is that if I have problems like watching a movie or watching like football.
I totally
And I love I love to watch the latest movie. I love to watch, I have a 72-inch, widescreen 4K TV. I watch it maybe twice a week, if that, and that's only because my wife turned it on. But like if football's not on, I probably won't watch it. And even then football comes on on like a Sunday. And so I'll do that, but I feel bad afterwards. Like, I feel like, what could I have done with that 2
lost
hours?
production. No, I know. And see, I mean, and once you get into this zone after a while, especially, it never is quite clear when the transition from survival to enrichment occurs, where you're hustling, making ends meet, and then you're doing a little bit more than making ends meet. Then you're doing a lot more than making ends meet. Then you're debtless, and now the money is almost an academic question. It almost is like where you're turning money down because you prefer your freedom. By that time, it has become so ingrained and so mentally a part of you that I'm sure it takes almost half the time you built up the mentality to get rid of it and have a leisure mentality where you can actually take time off or engage in a vice and have no guilt associated with it after the fact.
I'll tell you a really funny story. Like right before I decided that I wanted to just like go solo and just like live off of my my returns or my royalties, I was working for for a casino, and I was doing like promotion stuff, and I was doing their advertising, and I was doing some online stuff, and doing video, and just pretty much anything that they needed me to do, I would do. And then I got to a point, and this is going to sound so bad, but I got to a point where like I didn't want to deal with the day-to-day bullshit. I didn't want to like, because it seems like I was kind of cut away from it because I didn't have to be there. Like I was looking at like the day-to-day petty dictatorships that were there. I looked at this with like new eyes, right? I'm like, I don't have to be here. I'm here because I just want to be doing. I was enjoying it for a while, at least. It was good because it was getting me out, but I didn't have to be there to pay the bills. The bills were paid. I was just doing it. And then I kind of said, you know what? I'm making more money than anybody in this department right now. But my salary is less than 2 or 3 other people here, and I'm just like, why am I doing this? I don't have to be doing this. And so I think what happened to me is I think you will end up self-sabotaging yourself. You'll find ways not to deal with the bullshit, and eventually, like, rather than like let people down, I was smart enough to just say, hey, look, I'm out. I love all you guys like brothers, but I'm out. I'm going to go do my own thing from here on out. And that's when I started having that insight about what it is that I wanted to do. But like, then I get to a point where like maybe somebody, one of the ranches around here in the town say, hey, we need a ranch hand or something. Can you go and can you lift 50 pounds or something like that? Can you help us out? I'm like, I might go do that. Or like we got a volunteer fire department that's right down the street. I might go do that. Right. I have done that before. But like, I don't have to do those things, but it's like, I want to, just so I have the experience, so that I think that kind of helps me like understand people a little bit better. So it helps me like when I'm writing, like I would almost want to be like an Uber driver or something like that, just so I can meet new people regularly. I mean,
Oh,
it
absolutely.
pays for shit. Right. But you know, just to have that experience, to meet people and talk to people, like just random people, you know?
Oh yeah. No, I was sitting there thinking I wouldn't mind maybe working weekends at a used car lot. I wouldn't plan to sell one damn car. So like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I know everything about this guy. Nah, don't worry about my commission and stuff like that.
But I don't
got
have a
another
day
guy.
off. Yeah, I don't have a day off, but I do have hobbies, and I do cut myself time, but I have to really give myself permission to enjoy things in a way that I didn't have to before, because you're only as good as your last book. You're only as good as your last post. You're only as good as like, because there's a lot of good guys in the sphere right now. I haven't seen anybody who's going to write the next, you know, Rational Male yet, but that doesn't mean that dude's not out there. Right. And I think that's one of the aspects of really conventional masculinity is you're only as good as your last victory was. Right. And I want to keep going, and I want to stay on top of my game. And I enjoy doing what I do. So it's like, is it work, or is it just something that I like to do? And I learned that, like I said, from my old boss, because he had the money to just up and leave whenever he wanted to, but he didn't. He just kept going and doing the things that he wanted to. It's like people who say, like, once you get a certain amount of money, like your living conditions don't really change all that much. Like once you get like past like $2 or $3 million, then, you know, having another $10 million doesn't improve your living conditions, or the way you live your life that much more. Right. But people still want to be like billionaires, right? People still want to have a lot of money.
I understand it, but I don't
something
understand it at the same time.
Well, because I look at, and I don't think I've ever answered that. I never ever said this before, but I look at money as currency. And I don't mean that like, oh, currency, right? Well, there's a reason they call money currency, right? Because it's like an electrical current. It's like something, it's like an energy that you can use to do something, to perform an action, to make something happen, right? And so, like, I know that I have the ability to generate more revenue if I want to. If I know how to make money now, I know what I do best, and I know how to make some bucks. And for anybody in the chat who thinks that like I work for the 21 convention, I don't. I'm just an invited speaker. That's I get paid for that, yes, but I make a very small percentage on tickets.
He'd have to sacrifice his 2 hours a night sleep that he gets to
well,
be an active.
I take it very seriously. And anybody who saw me at the last, and God, man, Aaron, you got to come out to the 21 convention. At least if you can't you got to come out to
time.
it. Just hang out, man. Just come in and meet people and just hang out for the weekend. It's just a weekend trip, man. But I was going to say is that I do it because I want to, and it's a labor of love. And I'm finally at a point where I can invest myself in a labor of love.
Have you ever seen Hail Caesar?
No, but that's
exactly what you're talking about, man.
It has George Clooney in it, doesn't it?
It's got George Clooney, but he's more comic relief. I mean, he's instrumental to the plot, but it's a story of it's I wouldn't say one of my favorite movies, but it was definitely one worth seeing in the theater. And if you got your 72-inch screen TV,
yeah, now I'm gonna have to go get. I will watch it right after this show. How's that?
Because what it's about is Josh Brolin's character. It takes place in the 1940s Hollywood America. And Brolin is this straight-laced, tough businessman who heads up the studios and all the problems he runs into. And the story is all the crap, all of the other people's problems that this poor guy has to deal with. Here's the actress drama queen. Here's a guy who's working for another studio and breaking her contract. Somebody's trying to bribe or blackmail the studio. But in the entire background of this movie, he's got a job offer to go work for some technology company in New York. and the job is very easy and it pays a lot of money.
Mhm.
And you just see him getting pissed off and frustrated. And then he's also a very religious man, which is kind of funny. So he ends up going to confession a lot. And, what bothers you, my son? And the guy's so straight-laced. He's like, I had 2 cigarettes and I didn't tell my wife. I don't know, Father. I'm trying to give up. You see the father and the other just rolling his eyes like, oh, my God, this guy again.
Mhm.
Well, in the end, he's got to decide. Does he want this job that's a royal pain in the ass, or does he go work for this really easy gig? And I won't tell you what it is. You'll have to watch the movie for yourself. But it's that thing with your 60-year-old coworker that your boss you were working for, where he's ready to go. He's raring. Even though it's his job, he could make $10,000 or $10 million. He's still going to do it because that is what given him life and meaning and purpose. And I think in this very similar way, like you being the father, you have answered my question about the 2 cigarettes I shouldn't have had. Please don't tell my wife. That's kind of the answer I wanted. Is I lost my train of thought here. How to go about and determine and handle this upcoming good excess decisions and opportunities. I think one of the key things for everyone to take away from this is that, and I hate to use this phrase, I really hate to use this. You have to find out what your passion is in life. Don't major in your passion. Okay. Your passion is your side hustle, your entrepreneurial gig, what you put your heart and soul into outside of work. You still go make your money. You still save your pennies and dimes. But given the internet, how you can do many things online, you don't have to get permission anymore. You can bypass HR. You can raise money through GoFundMe. It's a lot easier to turn your passion into a money-making career than it used to be in the past. I know it's very opposite of what I say. And I want to delineate very clearly. You do not want to major in your passion. You just want to go and do your passion. And then by the time you're old farts like me and Rollo, soon your passion is writing about, motorcycle visits or, what would you call yourself in the booze industry? It's not a connoisseur. You're not a distributor. You're a marketer.
A sommelier. Is that what I am? Sommelier. Right. I was gonna say is like I think that I do have a couple of fears though about that. Like I see like guys, there's this one kid that actually lives really close here. I think he's in Tahoe or he's in Truckee, also a snowmobiler, but the guy has like a drop shipping. I believe it's a drop shipping a company that pretty much makes him independent at like his late 20s. And so, he goes out there and he gets cocky just like any 29-year-old, especially if you give money and you make, money no object for a guy who's that young. They're going to get cocky. Okay, fine, my guy, I got that. I think that I think you're right. I think that at no other time in history has it been easier to find a way to turn your passions into something that is profitable. Have you read Mastery by Robert Greene?
No, I very rarely read.
And I think that actually, after having listened to what the topic of the show is today, I would say if anybody's listening to this and you're wondering what you're going to do with yourself or what you want to do, go read Mastery. Fantastic book that sort of kicks you in the ass as to what is it that you want to do with your life and how do you go about achieving mastery in that thing that you feel drawn to. In it, Robert Greene talks about how easy it is to achieve mastery today. Like at no other time in history has it been easier to achieve mastery, but yet we still don't. We still just sort of like sit on our hands and would rather like have things done for us, or would rather have that regimen rather than break out and take chances. And half of the reason for that is because guys get kind of egotistical about things, and women too. When it comes to like you go to college and you get a master's degree, does that make you a master in whatever it is that you got that degree in? I would say no. But like back in the day, like if you wanted to be a master painter, if you wanted to be like Leonardo da Vinci, or you wanted to be like Michelangelo or something like that, you had to find another master who would take you as an apprentice. And then you had to go through the steps and learn, wax on, Daniel-san. You had to go through all of that kind of stuff. And you had to, first of all, you had to have some kind of talent, and then you had to have somebody who would take a chance on you, and then that you would hope to God that that guy actually knew what he was talking about, so that you could become a master yourself. And then you started, you're focusing yourself on what it is that you want to do. Well, now, like for instance, like the auger on my my snowblower broke about 4 days ago, and I have no mechanical ability when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? I went on YouTube, I figured out how to do it. I had it fixed inside a half an hour. I'm a master, right?
Yeah,
I
you're a
just
master,
figured I'm
yeah.
a master of this. Wow, small engine repair. I'm a master, right?
I'm a master of
because
cleaning
it's-
carburetors
because
too.
it's
Yes,
because it's right there. Now, does that replace intelligence? No, it doesn't replace intelligence, but you have access to things that in such a way that you have never had them before, and yet we are as lazy as we've ever been as a society right now. We have the access to learn. I think maybe it's you who was talking about this. Is like, I think you're talking about like uh, don't major in useless majors or whatever.
I may have
or
said
maybe,
that once or twice in my life.
Maybe
Yes.
college isn't the best idea for, like, because college is really just a profit. It's a diploma mill, right? It's a profit, for-profit thing, right?
I have been known to share that opinion with
I
others.
figured
Yes.
you might as well, but so it's, and I agree with that. I still think that if that's your point for going into college in the first place, you probably would be better off learning a trade or learning something, or trying to figure out what your skill is. Now, for me, college was a big deal for me because, like, I already had a talent and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I used my talent and I used my degree in my job, and because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Right. I have creative gifts, and I turned them into skills, and I've used those skills. But I think that learning, like educating yourself, and you don't necessarily have to go to college to do this. You can do this in many different ways, but education is its own reward. Like being a well-rounded person who can talk about a great many things. Like when I talk about like psychology, or I talk about Evo Psych, or I talk about Evo Bio, I had to have at least some sort of groundwork in that before I could actually speak authoritatively about that. And I still feel a little uncomfortable speaking authoritatively about it, but you have to know these things. You have to read up on these things. And one of the reasons, like, I'm good at what I write about is because I have a genuine, passionate interest in what it is. And people feed me stuff too. They're like, say, hey, have you thought about this? Or are you thinking about that? Or, what is it that I can glean from other people so that I can be a master of what it is that I do? I would like to think that I'm a master of the red pill, right? I mean, people want to call me the Godfather. Okay, that's fine. But, like, how do I get to that point? Well, we were just talking about, there's no days off. You just have to keep going at it. It has to be something that you don't mind. You don't mind it being something that is as consuming, right? My wife is really tough when it comes to stuff like that, because she doesn't understand. I don't think she understands the difference between a passion and, like, being obsessed with something. Right. I mean, what was it? I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger said something like, what is it? Obsession is what people who don't understand what passion means, or is used by people who don't understand what passion means. And I mean, I guess you can, it was one healthy and one unhealthy. I don't know.
I'd say addiction would be an obsession.
Addiction
where
might be
it's
an
out of your
obsession.
control, and then a passion is, oh, I hate to leave you, baby, but I gotta go because reality calls. And you got.
Well, if I talk to people, I talk to my brother or something like that. My brother thinks that I've been on a continuous vacation for the last 4 years. Right?
They
And I'm
all
like,
think the money just falls out of the sky, man.
And I
They
tell him,
all-
I say, I haven't had a vacation in 4 years. I've just been doing this all the time. I don't think, like, I feel weird. Like when I was at the 21 convention and I was focusing on just my speech. I don't know if you caught my State of the Manosphere address, but everybody told me that it was, like, one of the best speeches that I've ever given. And I tend to think it was pretty good too, if I do say so myself, but I worked hard on that, man. I had my nose in my laptop the whole time I was there, right up until I gave the speech, because I wanted it to be perfect. I was very much a perfectionist when it came to that. But, like, once I was done, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, okay, I've done all this. And then, like, if I take my focus off of that for a minute, and I take my focus off of writing for my blog or writing for my book, and I apply it towards something else, I always feel like whatever it was I should have been working on was suffering. And I hate to feel that way, but sometimes you just have to, do that. You have
Yeah.
to
You can't be
aim
in two
yourself.
places at once. And that's I know it's the pot calling the kettle black, but I can be out doing X, whether
Or
it's
like,
work or fun. It's like, oh, well, I could have been doing Y.
yeah, is this, I hate the idea of thinking like, I think in two ways. Is what I'm doing making me money? Or is what I'm doing going to make a difference, like, to somebody's life? Like, is it on the bigger scope of things? Is this like something that's going to benefit people in the long run? And like, I hate it because like I spent, like I said, 2 hours watching a movie and I'll go, God damn it, what could I have done with that 2 hours?
Let me ask you this. Has this ever happened? You'll go work out at the gym or you'll go run or whatever. And then you're literally driving home and then you see a guy running like, oh, that bastard's running. I should go run. Oh, wait, I did go running. And
I did do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened to
Hey,
me.
you know what's funny is like when I go to the gym, I don't feel that way so much because I feel like I'm doing something that's important that has to get done. Like if I go to the gym and I spend like an hour and a half in the gym and then I go home, I don't get the same feeling of like, oh, what could I have done with that? Because I know that that's something that's worthwhile and something that's like constructive. And I think maybe that's actually, you know what? I think that's probably the question you're asking here is like, and I've got a post about this. I don't believe in contentment, and I've never believed in contentment. Like people want to say, oh, you got to be content in God, or you got to be content with this, or you got to be content. I don't think that the human condition supports contentment whatsoever. In fact, that's why, like, if you think that, oh, I'm going to go get I'm going to get my doctorates in, surgery or psychology or whatever,
Right.
Once you get that, then what? Like, you'll be happy with that. I've got a diploma on my wall. It's beautiful. Right. But once I got that, and that 4.5 years or almost 5 years of work, busting my ass and focusing on that, and thinking that once I get that, I think a lot of guys, like when they go to college, they think that I'm just doing this to get a job. I'm just, why do I even need this Western traditions shit? Why do I need humanities? Why do I need this kind of stuff? I'll never use this in my job. That's, I'm sure you probably heard young people say that. But like, I think that what happens is when you get that degree or when you get that achievement or when you've come to you've got to that apex, the peak of the mountain, then you're happy with it and you enjoy the view and you go, damn, I did a really good job. And maybe you're a little bit prideful, maybe you're a little bit, and maybe rightfully so. But then half an hour later, you're like, is there a bigger mountain I can climb? Is there something else I could do? Because I don't believe in true contentment. In fact, I think people stagnate in contentment. But there has to be
35 years left to do so. You climb the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
Pinky, what are we gonna do, brain? Same thing we do every night, Pinky. We're gonna try and climb another damn mountain. Yeah, it does. The game isn't over then. You got to keep on going.
Right. And then I think that what happens is like people there's two things. People think that they can be contented and then they discover that they can't, right? And then they get upset because they feel like they should be contented with what it is that they achieve because maybe it took a lot of time and energy to get there, right? And then there's people who deal with discontent in different ways. Like I've always been of the idea that when you're dealing with discontent, you should do so creatively and constructively, because a lot of people deal with discontent destructively. They find ways to like destroy themselves because of that discontent. They will either isolate themselves and just sort of like retreat within themselves, or else they'll become workaholics, or they'll find some way to just like find a destructive way to deal with discontent. And I think that is far better. And I think really a lot of humanity has been based on constructive discontent and being creative with that discontent. And what can I build and what can I achieve next? And what is possible? I've said this a million times. It's like, I believe that men are idealists. Men have part of our evolved mental firmware makes us interested in things. Like for women, they're interested in people. Men are interested in things. And as such, we want to see what's possible. We want to see how can I build a bridge there? Can I climb the mountain? Can I do this? What is possible, and how can I achieve that? Right. And that's like dealing with that discontent constructively. And that, I think, is what, when you get to a position like where you and I are right now, where we don't have to necessarily show up to work tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. that we have to answer that question every day. What am I going to do to be better? How do I make myself the best version of myself? How do I create something that's going to have a lasting impact? How do I make a dent in the universe? And it ends up being a question of, are you going to deal with discontent creatively or destructively? And I think the constructive and the creative side is always best.
Right. Right. No, I agree. Well, Rollo, we could go on forever, but do you still have a little bit of time?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's for the original reason, because we could talk forever, and unfortunately we don't have the time. I have an email request, not an email request. I have a video request from a client at Asshole Consulting, and not only because I want to promote more a little bit of celebrity guest Asshole Consulting. This one I couldn't answer, Rollo, because I've never been married. It's really on the fence, and I wanted to give this kid better advice than me. I don't know. So I'll go ahead and read it here, and then I had a follow-up question for him. He gave me a little bit more information. Hi, Aaron. I want to get your opinion on whether or not I should get married. I'll leave you a brief rundown of my situation and the girl in consideration. I'm 30 years old. I'm a manager for 3 offices of some place in a large major metro area, and currently make just over $100,000 in salary, which in this major metro area would not make him rich, but it wouldn't make him poor either. I have no debt and over $100,000 in savings, plus $30,000 to $40,000 in retirement accounts. The girl I'm considering is someone I've dated since January of 2016, so 3 years. We moved in together in November of 2017 and have been living together since. She is 26 years old. She's in shape and shorter than him. I don't even want to give specifics because it would identify her if she's listening. She majored in marketing, but currently works for a large nonprofit organization. She makes 60 grand a year and has about 10 grand in savings, no retirement account. She does not have any debt. She has some sort of inheritance coming from her grandparents, although her parents haven't revealed how much it is. Not that I care either way, as long as she isn't in debt. She is fairly frugal with money, only buying stuff on sale or at a decent price. Of course, she buys all that crap that girls typically buy: new clothes, makeup, a few pieces to decorate the apartment. But she is not the one to spend a fortune on random bullshit. She comes from a blue-collar Democrat family, and even though she is liberal, she is not overly so and not really interested in politics. I even got her to agree with my point of view on abortion. I'm pro-life, by the way. She genuinely cares about me and my success. Since I've met her, I've actually made more money and have had more success in my career than ever before, almost doubling my salary in a few years' time, although I don't know how much of that was her influence or just my will and effort. She helps me prepare my meals for the week. We do a weekly meal prep together, make sure we eat healthy. She works out 2 to 3 times per week at the gym to maintain her appearance, and she forces me to go to bed early during the weekdays so that both of us get enough sleep and feel rested the next day. Without that influence, I'm very prone to staying up late and just sticking around on the internet till it's 1 a.m. She has a robust social circle and invites me to go out with her and her friends all the time, as I tend to be very introverted sometimes. Overall, she's been a very positive influence in my life. Additionally, your parents love me, take me to expensive trips, restaurants, Broadway shows, etc. Basically treat me like a son almost. She even said she was willing to move to Florida with me in 5 years' time, even though she never wanted to leave work. I do eventually want to have kids and raise a family. She wants to have 2 kids within the next 4 to 5 years. I know that she definitely wants to get married. Don't worry, I charge a lot for this one. I know she definitely wants to get married and have a traditional family within the next few years. I seriously doubt she would be for any type of baby mama situation. Writing all this out, I feel like a dumbass even asking this question, but do you think it is a wise decision to marry her? Here's where the curveball comes in, Rollo. Mm-hmm. My concerns are as follows. She has had more sexual partners than me, 14 dudes, including me. I know it's pure egotistical on my part, but it bothers me, not the actual number, but just the fact that she's been with significantly more guys than I have women. 2, I am not as physically attracted to her as I once was when we first met. I assume this is normal, but there is a part of me that craves more sexual variety. Honestly, I feel like we only have sex a few times per month. I'm sorry, let me reread this. Honestly, I feel like we only have sex a few times per month, which is less frequent than when we weren't even living together. Go figure. For whatever reason, I don't find myself excited about the prospect of marriage at this stage in my life. I feel as though a part of my freedom is being taken away. I almost feel as though I'm trying to logic myself into it, considering the importance of this decision. Shouldn't one be undoubtedly emotionally moved towards the choice rather than be nervous and hesitant about it? Or is every guy nervous about it from the prospect of getting married? 4, financially, marriage appears to be a dumb decision. Everything from the engagement ring to the wedding day to everything else seems to be a waste of money. Not to mention that contract you sign where you agree to fork over half your assets if things don't work out. And statistically speaking, they usually don't work out. 5, this may sound weird, but oftentimes I feel more rested and relaxed when I'm not with her. It's not that her presence bothers me, but I'm somewhat of an introvert and enjoy my privacy and alone time from other humans in general. Just wanted your opinion on this. I'm very much conflicted. I love and care for this girl deeply. I don't want to dick her around, literally and metaphorically, for too long because I understand women have a biological clock. I've never even considered marrying any other girl until I met her. I remember distinctly telling my own father 6 months after we first started dating that this girl is marriage material. What is your opinion on this? And I think the question I asked, is she willing to stay home and raise the kids, or have you not talked about this? And have you talked about a lawyer marrying her in one state versus marrying her in Florida if they were to move? And hang on, there was responses are in blue. Is she willing to stay home? And so long as finances permit, she would absolutely love to do that. So she's willing to be a stay-at-home mom. I remember once telling me that she would love to quit her job, stay at home, take care of the kids, exercise at the gym every day, and cook dinner. Have you talked about the lawyers? He hasn't talked to any lawyers. And then he wanted a video response. So he changed his mind there. So that's the question. I'm on the fence, but I'd like to get your married man opinions take because you have been married.
You know, this is one of the questions I get from guys all the time is like they wonder why I'm against marriage, right? I have had a really fantastic marriage. I love my wife to death. We still have great sex. You know, we produced one kid, right? I mean, I should be like very pro marriage, but I think as an institution, marriage is a great idea, right? I think as an institution, I believe that men and women are better together than they are apart, right? But we're finding ways to condition ourselves to make that union, to make that complementarity a bad deal. And that's one of the reasons I can never advocate for marriage right now, because in its present state in Western society, it is an all downside proposition for the guy. And people say, well, Rollo, aren't you in that? Yeah, I am. And I have a great marriage. And I'm telling you right now that if I were to tomorrow find myself single, or God forbid, you know, widowed or whatever, I would never get married again. Certainly not in this condition, and not the way. And I have to preface everything I'm about to say with that right now. I'm not anti-marriage as from the respect of it being like a union between a man and a woman. I think that probably in the past marriage has been good, but like prior to the sexual revolution, I think marriage might have, you know, where women and men, the trade-offs were if not equitable, certainly workable. Right now, marriage is a liability for guys. It's all liability. It's all 100% responsibility and almost 0% authority right now. Nothing really comes of it. But that's my preface here. Now, this guy in particular, the red flags are this. The biggest red flag is he moved in with her already. Okay, that's almost always bad news. I always tell, in fact, that's one of my iron rules of Tomassi is never shack up, never move in with a woman, never put your name on a lease for a rental with a woman, because what you're essentially saying is that you, the undersigned, promise only to have sex with this one woman for the duration of the lease, 1 year, right? And at that point, that's when women kind of like ease up, and all that competition anxiety goes away, and all that sexual urgency goes away, and all of the fun sex that she had with you to convince you to, to stick around, all now she can ease up on the accelerator pedal, right?
They're down a few times a month.
And they're already looking at that. I should also add this, is that the definition of a sexless marriage is 1 time a month. Okay. I think it's like 10 times a year or 1 time a month counts as a sexless marriage. So if the guy's only having it like 2 or 3 times, maybe he is like just above the sexless marriage, and then he's not even married and it's already happening. I would also be very wary of a woman with an N count of 14. And guys won't, or like women will say, well, what are we supposed to do? Not have sex, or not, maybe she's this, jewel in the rough, right? Maybe she did all that and she regrets it, and now she really wants to be with him. Well, that will definitely be her story once she gets to be about 29 years old and she's desperate to marry somebody. But statistically, women who have higher N counts, notch counts, tend to not be able to form healthy attachments to their husband later in life, right? That's the statistical side of it. I really, I'm gonna have to dig. I'm gonna have to.
I
dig
saw
up
the
some
chart. I
links
think it's a
for
very
you.
famous chart.
I'm gonna have to dig up the links for you, because people will call me on that. They'll go, "Where'd you get that information?" There's lots of research on this, that the more sex that a woman has, premarital sex she has, is directly linked to her propensity to get incident of divorce, but also her inability to form healthy attachments to her husband, right? And I think what's weird is, like, I think at one partner, then it's like a certain percentage, and then if you get to like somewhere in the 7 to 8 range, it just skyrockets. And then like after like 10 or 12, it comes back down a little bit, for whatever the hey, it's probably just thinking, hey, I've had sex with 10 guys. What's another, 2 or 3, right? But there is, and this is just the mechanics between men and women. Okay. The mechanics are is that women have sex and have different sexual strategies than men do. Okay. And they vet for different things, and they attach for different things. Now, you probably already understand what I'm going to say here is, like, there's alpha fucks and there's beta bucks. Okay. And so right now it's highly likely, particularly since they just moved in together and they got all comfortable with one another, that she sees this guy as the beta provider. Like he's already, what did he start? He started his paragraph off, or started his story off, about how he's 30 years old. He's affluent, at least. He's got X amount, he rattled off his investments. He rattled off what it is that he does. He rattled off all the money that he has. And so, like, it almost feels to me like he's qualifying himself to get permission to marry somebody, but he's not, doesn't seem like he's 100% sure of that. And he wants somebody to sort of like slap him upside the head and say, have you thought of this? So I'm going to do that for him right now. He probably sees marriage from the perspective of the old set of books, okay, or the old social contract, where it's, if I have money in the bank, and if I have a house, and if I have property, and if I have, I'm going to make partner in the firm, or if I'm, I've got my own practice or whatever, that kind of stuff. If I have all that stuff, then that's going to make me a better catch for women right now. And that used to be the case prior to the sexual revolution. That used to be the case under the old social contract. Right now, it just categorizes that guy as the good catch, right? As the guy who would be good for parental investment, but not the fun, exciting guy she wants to have sex with. How do I know this? Because she's already had sex with 14 other guys. She's had sex with 14 other guys, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that, hey, you shouldn't feel like, most guys, like, this kind of comes back to what I call the war on paternity. Like, we try to convince guys that shouldn't matter, right? She had sex with 14 guys, right? Well, are you insecure in your masculinity? Should you, she's human too. She has a sexuality. What, are you trying to be sexually repressive? What, are you going to start slut shaming her next? Just even talking about that is technically slut shaming, right? But no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, here's the nuts and bolts of this. The nuts and bolts is that women who have higher N counts have a harder time making those attachments. Also, women who have higher N counts have more of a chance, the more, a larger pool of people she's had sex with, she has a larger chance of fixating on one of those guys, one of her 14, as her alpha, as the guy who was the best sex she ever had.
You'd be an alpha widow, yes.
It's to become an alpha widow. And like when guys, and I've got this is actually a paragraph in the first book. It's called the slut paradox, right? Like a woman is really great and fun in bed, but you got to ask, how did she get that way, right? Every man wants a slut. He just wants her to be his slut. And I think that what happens is, like, I don't think that it's so much a numbers game. It's not that she had sex with 14 guys so much as it is that she had more exposure to more men, of which one or two or maybe three of those guys made a really significant alpha impact. Like that was like the best sex that she's ever had, was with that one bad boy outlaw biker who played in, guitar in the band, so she's going to think about that and fixate on that. And I'll tell you right now, I would say that that's probably one of the reasons for the decline in their sexual frequency after they moved in. That's the other thing I was going to say, is like, he's already kind of shot himself in the foot with this one. So if he's listening, don't do this again. Don't move in with a woman. Don't think for a second like, well, it's great. We'll be saving money. We'll be sharing the rent. No. You need, well, it's not so much a thing about freedom. Like, guys will say, well, you're just trying to say it's about freedom. It's not. It's about your ability to maneuver. It's about your capacity to change your mind when you want to, or to do things, not according to whatever her schedule is. Like right now, she's already creating like this routine for him. It's like, oh, she does this for me. She would prepare our meals together. Well, that's great. That's nice. Hey, I'll do the same thing with my wife too. But you're not married, okay? You're living together. You're living as if you are married, and you're getting into that comfort and that familiarity and that rapport, and all of those things are anti-seductive. So when she knows that she can go and have sex with you whenever she wants, or she doesn't have to make an effort anymore. Remember, she's probably thinking of sex with you as sort of comfortable, and I don't want to say meaningful, but like comfortable and convenient, right? Whereas like the alpha guys that she was having, sex with in Cancun on spring break, that guy wasn't. He was urgent, and she needed to make a decision to have sex with that guy right then and there. And to, I will guarantee you this: if a woman has 14, a 14 notch count, not all 14 of those guys were dudes that she like had a relationship with, and that she moved in with, and that she, was comfortable with. I will guarantee you that at least 7 of those 14 were guys that were right then and there, and they had to, the urgency was there, and the anxiety was there, and the dread was there, that if she didn't have sex with that guy, she was going to miss out on that opportunity. She was going to miss out on something. So the reason I'm throwing all this out there is because this guy is about to make a decision that's going to affect the rest of his life, based on not having all the information, like not really being able, like, he's writing pros and cons, right? Well, I got a whole lot more cons, and maybe 1 or 2 more pros that he hasn't added to that list. It's nice that the parents like you. That's important. Okay. I'm not going to lie. The fact that they want to treat, or she comes from a good family, at least seemingly. I mean, maybe that's what this guy's perception is. I would have to like sort of meet these people and understand.
Be invited to Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Interrogate the hell out of them,
to
right?
Really pick up on that. But my gut says no. Don't marry this one. In fact, and then accept it as the loss. Just say, okay, I'm going to learn from this. And the reason I'm saying that right now is because the guy's 30 and he's just on his ascent to his sexual market value peak. Okay. He's getting to the point where like he's very impressed. I think like him starting this paragraph out, or starting this letter out by saying, I make X amount of money. Oh, and she makes $60,000 a year too. And she doesn't have any student debt. And she, and those are pluses. But I think really what he's doing is he's throwing those out there to sort of get permission from you, to say, oh, okay, well, she doesn't have any debt, so that's a plus. I think that he doesn't realize just how successful he's probably going to be within the next 3 to 5 years, because he's 30 years old right now. And what happens is most guys get into, like most guys being beta, they'll get to about 30 years old, and then they suddenly discover that women want to, like the women that didn't want to have anything to do with them back when they were 22 years old, suddenly they want to have something to do with them. Suddenly they really think that they're really great, and like, oh, I can't believe, like I've learned my lesson. I was so crazy in my party years, or my college years.
I'm
right?
grown up now.
I'm no like that anymore. I want to get right with God. I want to do things the right way now. And what that means is making more rules for him. Like, so, like, I would say at least some of those 14 guys, she probably had sex with him on the same night, right? Or she felt urgency enough to have sex with them right away, breaking any rules that she would have even, thought that she might have. But yet she will, she's already dictating the frame of the relationship by like deciding when and where they're going to have sex, and like they're only going to do it at certain times. And I think that, and I was looking in the chat here, like a lot of guys are just like, no, the sex isn't there. If she's not if she's not the hell yeah girl, like if you say, hey, let's go on a date, and she's like, hell yeah, I'll go on a date with you. Or if she's like, you want to have sex? Yeah, hell yeah, I want to have sex. If she's not the hell yeah girl, then she's not going, it's just going to be this gradual decay once you get past marriage. If it's not good before marriage, you probably don't have the frame. And you're if the sexual frequency has declined after you've moved in with her, I would say that first of all, it'll even decline even further, and then second of all, she's setting the frame. It's her frame that he is entering into. Because listen to what he says. He's talking about how her parents and her social group, and he's very specific about the things about her rather than the things about him. Like his when he describes himself, it's all about the money and everything. So my gut says no, and learn from this, because you need to get with a woman who is like a ride or die chick. Okay. You need the girl that's going to go and steal the police car that you're handcuffed in the back of the police car and Bonnie and Clyde it with you. That's the chick that you want, who's like that, so into you that there's no doubt about it. And I think he has doubt. It sounds to me like he has doubt about this. I mean, he wouldn't be hitting you up.
He's not even that physical. I mean, of course, your physical attraction obviously goes down.
Yeah.
That's just normal. No, yeah, he wants variety. Well, okay, get in line, pal. That's male genetic in nature. But yeah, a couple of things that were pointed out. But well, your final judgment is no.
I would say no, and primarily because she doesn't seem like a ride or die girl. She seems like, it seems to me, I'm getting the feeling, and the reason I get the feeling is because I've talked about his case is not something new to me. Okay, I get the feeling that he is the guy she wants to marry because she's done with her party years. She's done with the 14 guys. And now she sees him as a ticket to her long-term security. And he is what I would call a beta in waiting. Okay. He's one of these guys who plays by the books and does everything that everyone told him to do, and built himself up. And, probably for good reason. Guys want to do that. You want to be as successful. What we're just talking about, contentment and everything else. Right. But I would say that from what I can gather from this guy, he's what I call a beta in waiting. He thinks that his ships come in. Like when a woman comes in and she suddenly loves you at 30, when she didn't love you at 22, what that says to me is circumstances have changed for that woman. And so now her priorities are changed because she has a new necessity. Her necessitous women will change their sexual priorities or hypergamous priorities to cater to whatever the guy is who's like their best prospect. And I think she's probably trying to do that right now. That's why the parents are involved. That's why he's where he's at. And I think that that sex is the glue that holds relationships together. And if it's already declining after you've gotten into the comfort of living together, if you made a mistake, first of all, go read Iron Rule number 4, which is never move in with a woman that you aren't married with, or you aren't planning to marry within 6 months. It sounds like he's been living with her a lot longer than that. And then that, of course, what happens is women get comfortable and they don't have to try anymore. And they'll, instead of wearing lingerie, they're wearing, sweatpants for you, that kind of stuff. It's no longer about It's no longer about urgency. It's no longer, he's talking about what, like, I want to try more adventurous sex or stuff like that. It sounds to me like she's just giving him starfish sex. This is the euphemisms guys use.
Starfish
Yeah, it's
sex.
giving her starfish sex, where she's, just like, okay, are you done? I got to go fold laundry. That is probably where she's at right now. And he understands that. And I think probably the biggest issue he's going to have is the sexual side of things. Like, because if he's not having sex right now while they're living together, he's not going to be having sex after marriage.
No. All right. I'm going to take a much more Machiavellian economic, but different approach to come to a different conclusion than Rollo. But it's also going to be cowardly because I still am undecided. I have two conflicting groups of information where she seems traditional in one sense, where she's committed to working out and says so. She's cooking and doing kind of the wifey things. She would want to stay at home and raise the kids. And she has no debt. That is a huge thing from my financial background. And probably is one of the best things she has going for her, having a job and stuff like that. So you're the first 2/3 of your email obviously did sing her praises, and I was inclined to agree. But then the other stuff is it's hard to get over that 14-notch count. She has a crap degree, Democrat family, and keep in mind my concerns. If it was a pie chart, that 14 would be 80% of the pie chart, and then 10 and 10 would be the crap degree and Democrat family. What Rollo had said in terms of marriage not being worth it today because it's just the legal downside risks included. If you were to get married, if you wanted to do it legally, by God, go talk to a lawyer. And both of the states you're kicking around and prenup and blah, blah, blah. But even then, what I would do is see if you can find, I don't know if Florida is, what is it where, like, if you live together, is that common law marriage or something like that?
I think it's common law. Yeah.
Hopefully it is. Florida is not a common law state. I'm sure somebody in the conversation knows where it is or not. And then you go ahead, continue living together, but you have your own private ceremony. As a libertarian, I've never thought I don't think the government has no fucking right or business in my personal relationships. And especially today, bringing the government in and therefore the law is a completely unnecessary risk. So this is where you're going to have to get people that know more about the law than me and Rollo. But yeah, I'm very lukewarm. I'm going to come down on a wait and see. Because this is not the holy cow, who are you? And yeah, baby, let's go. And, no, I haven't. So, not that you're going to meet this nice, wonderful girl at church or anything like that. But in fair, this is why I say wait and see. I'll be honest. I haven't seen a lot of women with the qualities your girl has. This gal does work out. This girl doesn't have debt. This girl is willing to cook. And, I'm not saying, well, the quality to have relative standards, ideally you'd have objective standards, but compared to today's tatted up sluts and nose pierced I mean, my God, I mean, I'll be honest, it may not get better than this. It may not.
It's funny. It's like when I'm doing counseling for guys who are in their 40s and they got divorced and they're getting back into the sexual marketplace, the first thing that they complain about is like, there's no good women. There's no women without any kind of baggage, right? And it's interesting because I'll compare those guys to some of the younger guys who say the same thing, which is kind of like what you're saying right now. You're looking at a chick who's 26 years old, right? I'm not going to say she doesn't have some upside. She does, but like, I think the 14 notch count is a downside.
It's almost a deal breaker. That unto itself is.
And then like I see some of the guys in the chat here talking about like, oh well, she's a Democrat and she has 14 notch count, so she's out. And it's like, but then you're bringing up a very common rebuttal to that, which is, well, what else is there? Like, who else is going to be? Okay, well, maybe you could find a girl with like half of that, 7 notch counts. Oh, okay. And then, and maybe she comes from like a libertarian family, it's like, that's why they call them unicorns, right? That's why they say, it's like finding that perfect thing. It's like, it's bloody impossible. So what do you do as far as, like compromising that. Like women will say the same thing. They'll say, well, you know, there's no good guys. And what they really mean by no good guys is there's no good guys that like want them and that are, you know, above them socioeconomically and who are good looking and they're maybe a step above them in sexual market value. And they think the same thing. Well, the problem is like there's no ideal, I don't think. I mean, maybe there is, but like it's so rare that you're certainly not going to find it in Western society. You know, what's funny is like there probably going to be people who listen to this or are watching this right now who are saying, well, just go to like the Philippines or you know, go to Thailand and find a girl, you know, there. But you know, you're still going to be dealing with
male-female dynamics,
male and female
future.
dynamics, but you're also going to be dealing with the pros and cons of dealing with a Western woman. Most guys don't think that, particularly in the I don't want to say PUAs, but like MGTOW community, always think that, you know, the answer is to go to Thailand or to go to some like Southeast Asian country.
Well,
and
don't forget sex dolls. That's a big answer.
Sex
there
dolls
too.
is
The
a
sex
big
dolls.
deal
That's
too.
the future.
Yeah.
Just
Get a doll.
10 years from now, get a
Yeah.
doll.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. I think this, I would say no. I'm going to come down on the side of no, just simply because there's too much to risk. And I think it probably, you know, he's 30 years old, man. You know,
he's got time.
He's got
No,
time.
no.
Yeah,
It's a
wait
tough
for your
one.
wave. Wait for the wait for a better one than this. Particularly, again, the notch count thing. I'm not going to say that, you know, that you couldn't do it, but I think that the fact that the sex is declining already is a very big red flag and a very bad sign. So,
let's do this. Do you got to get going there, Rollo?
I can stick around for about another 20.
Let's do this. Let's do rapid machine gun fire super chats because people have donated some money and I don't want to leave them hanging. I feel horrible, but because some of them are addressed to you here. Bacon Baldito for 527 writes in, hey, Rollo, thoughts on Gen Z dating in the future if you haven't covered it yet? Side question for both. What's your favorite varietals?
Varietals. I don't know what a varietal,
I don't know what a varietal is. I don't know.
Is it like is that? Would a varietal be like a stock or something like that? Does that sound like something?
How about you answer his question on dating Gen Z
for Gen
in the
Z,
future, and I'll look up what a varietal is.
What is Gen Z like? That's after millennials, right? Like what age range would Gen Z be right now?
I'm going to do it based on my friend kid.
I'm Gen X.
8. Let's just say we're Gen X. 18 and under is Gen Z, so the tweens to the teens, I guess.
Tweens to the teens. Okay, so younger than my daughter. I would say that you need to absorb all of the information, like we were talking about earlier. Is you need to absorb all of this. There's so much information that was never available, like when you and I were like dating, or like I look at the 90s as like the apex for feminism, because we didn't have the internet and guys were just dumb and guys didn't have we couldn't compare notes, and we didn't see just how egregious the feminization of men had become. I think that gosh, man, we're probably going to talk about this at the patriarchs thing at the 21 convention. But
give them the short version. Young people today,
Gen
X, but the millennials and Gen Z, there is no official cutoff date. It's the same social and environmental dynamics they're facing. So, I mean, what would you tell any today? I would
say, keep your head in red pill awareness. Here it is. Make yourself your own mental point of origin. That, I think, is the number one thing that anybody needs to do, but particularly younger guys, because right now we teach our boys as if they're defective girls. Okay. And I think that if you're a man of this, or a young man of this generation, of this Generation Z, you need to make yourself your own priority. And don't feel bad in doing that. You need to be a practitioner of what I call enlightened self-interest, is that you cannot help anyone until you can help yourself. And then once you do that, then you can decide who it is that you want to help. But you can't help others as well as when you help yourself first. And so you need to knock this idea out of your head, or you need to knock womankind off the pedestal, not just a woman, but womankind off of the pedestal, and replace that with yourself, and make the decisions that you make. Your reflexive thought needs to be, how is this going to affect me, rather than how's it going to affect my wife? How's it going to affect my girlfriend? How am I going to facilitate my relationship? You need to make yourself your number one ambition and your number one, thought in your head. That's why people ask me, they say, well, what is mental point of origin? And it's actually down to the thought basis. So it's like when something comes into your life, it's like your first reflexive thought is, how does this affect me? Because most guys don't do that. In fact, we're taught not to do that.
Right. I would just say hit the gym. That's my that's it. Varietals, I look it up. It means wine. What type of wine do you like?
Wine.
Or your favorite. What is your favorite?
My favorite wine is Chianti, actually. But as far as brands and stuff, like there's a lot of really good, and this is gonna sound really weird, there's a lot of good South African wines coming out right now that are really good. They're very popular, put it that way. It's selling quite a bit of those. But I tend to go for like the blood of the lamb kind of wines. Like I like really deep, rich reds, and Chianti is probably my favorite.
My favorite would be Rumpelmans, because I don't wine just gives me, I can't do wine. I can't do wine. Fernando, hey, I used that when I was doing ballroom dancing and all that. It was a great way to not have bad breath while going face to face and cheek to cheek with a girl. Fernando Covett writes, he doesn't have a question. Marriage is about making babies anyway. Never was about being hedonistic. I always scroll through. Hey, we might be free, Rollo. We might be free to go and continue working. And
what's funny is a lot of trad cons throw this at me. They think that like because I advocate for like some pickup artist stuff, they think, oh, you're just advocating for wanton hedonistic sex. And then I think one of the funniest things I've ever had thrown at me is that guys will say that this is trad cons, like any sex that you have that isn't about like procreation is just an addiction. It's a drug addiction. That's what they say.
You knew I grew up. My dad was a pastor, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I got, dude. The canards I had told to me as a kid, and you don't. We don't have time for it. We don't have time for it. All right, that's it for the super chats. Thank God. Not that I'm against people giving us money. It's just because I'm sure you got your things to do. I got my things to do, and then I actually have to hit the gym. Let us go through very quickly the sponsors here, and then I'll have you plug your stuff. Basically, the main one, you guys all know my books. You can find me on aaronclary.com, and we have Patreon and PayPal and all that other stuff. The quickest way to do it is go to captaincapitalism@blogspot.com. The links are all there. If you feel like throwing money or shopping on Amazon supporting the show, you can go to olderbrother.com/donate, and there's the three main ways you can do that there. Where are the main ones? All right, the Pence Principle. Lessons all men must learn from Kavanaugh Ford, written by Randall Bentwick. Trade the Ratio by Glorious Carl. If you guys are interested in investing in precious metals and gold, get that book, Trade the Ratio. The mensadvocate.net. Rollo, I don't know if you ever heard of this site. You may want to take a look at it. It's
Men's Advocate?
It's for divorced men. One of these days, I'm going to get Terrence Popp and Rich Cooper and Glendon Cameron. I don't know if you know who Glendon Cameron is. Let me get those guys on there. But because I've never been divorced, I've never been married, so it's a realm that's completely foreign to me. Though I have seen many other men get sacked like a quarterback.
Yeah, Rich Cooper has a thing he does on Mondays with Dr. Sean Smith on YouTube, and he calls it Before the Train Wreck, and it's like to help guys like make better decisions when it comes to like marriage and divorces. Actually, the question we answered today would have been a great one for that show.
Before the train. Here, I'm gonna check on. I'm writing that down. I'm gonna look up mystery. I'm gonna look up your state of the matter, and then Before the Train.
Before the Train. It's Rich Cooper and Dr. Sean Smith. Yeah.
Oh God. I say I need this because I burn through all my podcasts, relatively quickly. I go through about 8 hours.
People keep hitting me up to bring Terrence Popp on the Redman group, and I think we probably will do that at some point.
It's a lot of people say, just for the listening audience. I mean, you think, oh, would it be great to be there on this show? Why don't you get on that show? It's like, well, one, you just don't bring your dick in and say, hey, let me come on your show. Mm-hmm. These guys are so busy. Like, I don't know if you know any of these guys, but Terrence Popp is certainly busy. He's got 2 kids. Sexton Hammer, I know a lot of people say, oh, you should get on his show. And Stefan Molyneux, I'll just tell little Steffi poo, hey, Steph, baby, let me come on. So
Hey, let me get that. Let me get that super chat real quick. Carlos Miranda said something. Rollo, write a 5th book on workplace and society. You know, if you want something about society, go pick up my 3rd book, Positive Masculinity. The first part of, I would say, well, actually, the first like third of Positive Masculinity is about red pill parenting, and then the rest of it is society and the village, and how to combat that. So, I would have a look at that real quick. Have a look at the 3rd book if you're interested in society or workplace, or how to apply red pill dynamics to all that.
And then I always like to give a shout out to all the other podcasters that I listen to and have been kind enough to promote me. There's the 405media.com, Financial Survival Network with Kerry Lutz, Canto Talk starring Silvio Canto, O'Shea Jackson. You got to visit him when you go over to Poland. You know O'Shea Jackson?
I don't know. When I go to Poland, it'll be in July, and the reason, like, I'm so glad that Anthony wanted to do Poland for a European conference is because I have a Polish translation of The Rational Male, and the other books are being translated right now. Yeah, and it's like it's real. Yeah, I should show you a picture of it. It's
Wait a minute,
absolutely gorgeous book.
About those guys. That's right. Yeah, I hit you up. I said, hey, okay, all right, I remember that. All right. Economic Invincibility, JimFear138.blogspot.com, TJ Martinell, Small Scale Life, World Class Bullshitters, Entrepreneurs in Cars, Non-Communist Science Fiction.com, The Safety Doc over at safetyphd.com. And then I have to recommend this one, Pushing Rubber Downhill, because the guy who writes that and also has a podcast there, Adam Piggott, he is a huge fan of yours.
I know.
And me and another buddy of ours, the great one, we just busted his balls. So now that you've been on the show, we can even bust his balls some more. So, all right, Rollo, tell us. I know you did it up front. Tell us the websites and plug all your stuff.
Sure.
Your pinnacle works that everybody must read.
Absolutely. You can find me at therationalmale.com. That's my blog, and that is where I'm the most active. There's at least one post every week, and that's sort of my flagship project. Is always the Rational Male. I have 3 books. I have The Rational Male. I have The Rational Male Preventive Medicine, and I have The Rational Male Positive Masculinity. If you're going to buy all 3, start with the first one, which is just The Rational Male. That's kind of like the rule book. It's people call it the Red Pill Bible. It's the book you've probably been looking for.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
And I feel confident in saying that too, especially when people like highlight it and keep coming back to it. It's a living text. You won't read it once and just put it back up. And it's only $9.99. So I kept it intentionally cheap so people can get it. You can also find all 3 of those books on Audible. All of them are read by my good friend Sam Bada, who is a professional voice talent guy and also a good personal friend. So if you prefer to listen to them, you can find all of them on Audible. The links to those, I would prefer anybody listening to this, if you're going to go click over, don't just go to Audible and search. Go look at the links on my sidebar on my blog, because those are my affiliate links, and that's the only way I get any kind of, well, I mean, I always get royalties, but I don't get any like bounty links or anything like that for doing that. So I would appreciate it if you were going to do that and you wanted to start a new Audible membership, then go ahead and click through those links. Those are my affiliates. Then I am on the Redman group every Saturday at, well, now we're at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We have 50, well, we were on episode number 55. So there are at least 55 different episodes for you to check out. And we talk about a variety of topics.
To interrupt, you got Ed Lattimore on.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You have Reed Stone's on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
that was what we decided we wanted to do with it from the very beginning, is we wanted to sort of build a platform for a lot, well, first of all, for a lot of the speakers that were going to be at the 21 convention, but for like the who's who of the manosphere. Like we have Ed Lattimore on there, we have we've had you on there, we've had who else? We have Ryan Stone on there. We have AJ Cortez has been on there. Myself, of course, Rich Cooper. They just go look. We have so many good guys on there, and what I try to do, like I do the scheduling and the planning and everything for it. And what I try to do is I try to come up with a good topic, and then I try to pick the right guys who I think will be excellent on it. So if we did something on game, maybe I'll get like Andrew Tate or Christian McQueen or Goldman Unleashed or whoever, that I think would be good for that. And then like if we're talking about marriage or we're talking about something else, and I've got we got a huge variety of guys that can speak authoritatively on a lot of different topics. So check that out. That's the Red Man Group. It's on YouTube. You can also find my channel, which is the I just go under Rollo Tomassi for my own YouTube channel, which is the shows that I have is called the Red Pill 101, and that's like remedial red pill. Or if you're just like new to all this, that's your show. If you have questions or you think, oh, Rollo didn't think about that, man, what did he say about this? That's where you're going to find those answers. I've been doing this for I've been riding in the manosphere. What's the manosphere for 18 years now? About 18.
Yeah, that's about that. I mean, if you
It
want
wasn't called, it wasn't called the manosphere back then, but so I do that. And then also I do that with a guy named Pat Campbell, who's a very good friend of mine. And he will also be speaking at the 21 convention at both of them. And he is a terrestrial radio show host on a Fox affiliate in Oklahoma. And I do a live radio show with him on, you can also pick it up online, but it is at 9:05 Eastern in the morning on Friday mornings is when my segment is. I'm sure that everybody who is a fan of yours will really like that show too. It's right up your alley. In fact, if you hadn't, I don't know if you've heard me and Pat before, but that's a,
dude, you know how it is. Like,
yeah, you don't want to get up that early. I don't want to get up. I have to get up at 4 o'clock to do that.
it's not even. Now I'll go look because I could always use some new podcasts. But you don't even know half these things are out there because there's so many new content creators coming out, and it's like, oh, I got it. Oh, yeah. So it's kind of like word from mouth. I've already written down 3 ones I'm going to listen to here.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I want to unplug from the industry for a while and binge on comic book geekery type of podcast. So that's kind of why.
Same here. So I feel useless. I'm like, oh, okay, better get out of work.
Right.
And I have a 4th book forthcoming, which will hopefully be published in October. It is going to be The Red Pill and Religion is the #1 thing I have been petitioned to write about, and just how red pill and intersexual dynamics fit into. I originally started it as sort of an essay to speak to guys in evangelical Christian culture, and then people found out that I was writing about religion, and so like everybody came out of the woodwork and they're like, oh, what about Mormons? What about Islam? What about Jews? What about Hindus? What about Buddhists? They wanted to throw all this kind of stuff out there. So when it comes out, it's going to be my writing, but it's going to be a collaborative group effort amongst the manosphere once it's out.
Are you going to enlist the help of Dalrock by chance?
That was actually my initial intent, was to, I have him as a contributor right now, but I originally wanted to have him co-author with me, like we were both going to do it together, but he's very private, and he values his anonymity, and I can't even get him on any of my podcasts, and he and I are pretty good friends. So we do everything by email, and I will be borrowing heavily from Dalrock's stuff for that section for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, Rollo, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it. Everybody go check out his site. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning into the show. Welcome to all Rollo Tomassi's guests who came over as per his retweet. And we will see you guys later. And as always, toodles.
Cool. Thanks, guys.